I try to work out every day for an hour. I did know it. I absolutely do not enjoy that part of that book. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I would do a monthly wrap up. All the books that I read in the month of January. All the books I either read or DNF'd or maybe even listened to in the month of January. I thought I'd talk about them. I'm thinking I could do this every month. I try to commit to it. So yeah, in the month of January, I have my notes here. I read 7 books, and in that there were 4 physical books, 2 on Audible, and 1 on my Kindle app on my phone. So I read 7 books. Now, where do I get the time to read 7 books? Now, it's not as hard as you think. I don't know if it's too much or too less for someone whose aggressive indoor hobby is reading books. So if I'm busy in a month, I try to pick up shorter books, like under 200 or 250 pages. And I think I have become a quicker reader now, so I can finish it in 3 days maybe, a book under 350 pages. And I try to work out every day for an hour. And when I'm at the gym, I listen to an audiobook. So that is like an hour a day, 30 hours a month maybe, or like 20 hours minimum. So that much time on audiobooks. And I try to read for 30 minutes before I go to sleep so that I fall asleep. So that's some math I cannot do, but again, time on reading. And so that's the cumulative 7 books time that I spent. Anyway, let's get into it. The 7 books I read in January. I have my notes here and ready to talk about. Okay. The first book I read, I think soon after my New Year's and everything, was a book called Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood. Now, this was an audiobook. It was actually a novella, now I'm thinking about it, which is why I could finish it very quickly. It's the story of Viola and Jesse, 2 video game designers who are working in rival companies, and they're in a situation where they can land on a project which is their dream project. It is a very famous book and they are making an adaptation of a video game of it, and the companies which both of them are working are actually fighting to get that project, and it seems like they have to work together to land the project. So the CEOs of their respective companies come up with this incredible idea that why not put them together, the staff of both the companies together, for a winter camp or like a retreat, so that they all, become cordial with each other and do some team building activities basically. And if they succeed, they work together, they get the project. If not, it's screwed. So that's the premise of it. It's pretty much like snowed in kind of a situation, forced proximity trope and all of that, but it was good, I think. Right now it's only available on Audible, but it has all trademark Ali Hazelwood quips in it, so you definitely enjoy. For the next book, I have the physical copy, which is Good Material by Dolly Alderton. So this book, I went into it not expecting much. I have heard a lot about the author, but not good stuff about this book, actually. There's pretty much mixed opinion on people liking this and outright hating it. I don't know, I have mixed feeling too. I did like her writing, and how she portrays certain micro habits that we cultivate during a relationship was explained really well, I think. This is not a rom-com. On the contrary, it is a book about breakup, for the lack of a better word, I think, about heartbreak, yeah. So the book is about Andy, who is in his late 30s, doing stand-up and living in a shared apartment with his girlfriend, and when she dumps him, he is left with no apartment. The love of his life is gone, and his career is not actually reaching anywhere compared to his colleagues. So he ends up living on a boat for a while. Then he finds a most, weirdest roommate with an old guy, I think. But I think it is not a happy ending rom-com kind of a book. You go into it pretty much expecting to follow the POV of a guy when he's being dumped. So expect to be irritated by his monologue. Expect to actually find him narcissistic, and then he's very slow in identifying what went wrong with him. There is a chapter which shows the woman's POV, the girlfriend Jen's, at the end of the book, I think right before epilogue. I don't necessarily like her either. Both of them are very much flawed. They don't do any sort of communication before taking such a drastic decision. And I read it for the writing, and I still say you can get a lot of quotes from this which are very reflective on the situation and all of that. So, but if you're going through a phase like that, I would suggest you pick this up because it will be very relative. Okay, that's good material by Dolly Alderton. Next, I found the book Forest of Dreams and Whispers. This is going to be easily one of my favorite fantasies of all time. I think it was recommended by, I saw it on Carrie Can Read. She is one of my favorite YouTubers, and I follow most of her fantasy recommendations, and they turn out to be great. So this was from her. So this book is actually a Sleeping Beauty retelling, but with an Uno reverse. Like the prince has a curse on him, and our true love is actually the princess bodyguard. And if you like the tension in Cruel Prince between the characters, also the banter between Kai and Payden in Powerless, then you have to pick this up. There is another book in the series, but I'm actually keeping it aside for a rainy day. I know I'm going to love it. The author creates a very ethereal atmosphere, and the fairy land is actually very immersive. I really liked it. And this is a very underrated one. I have not heard a lot of people talk about this book, but it's on Kindle Unlimited. There is no excuse for you to not pick it up if this theme is something up your alley. Forest of Dreams and Whispers. After that, I got pretty much busy. I was hunting for shorter books in my TBR, and I read Almond by Wong Pung Sean. It is a translated Korean book. It was translated by Sandy Joseon Lee. So the book is about a kid who suffers from a peculiar disease called alexithymia, which means the brain is not developed in a way where you don't feel any emotions, like no fear, happiness, joy, surprise. And basically, your body would not react to any of these emotions either. You do not understand if someone is making a joke, or you're supposed to smile in this situation, you're supposed to be sarcastic. None of that works. This also means that the kid grew up not actually learning certain fears that are needed to keep you alive, like proper stimuli, like you need to run from a speeding car, or you have to stay away from dark alleys at night. All those things that actually build up as we grow, seeing different things, it doesn't register in this kid's mind. So he ends up being stranded in life after a huge tragedy hits his family, and everything that's left for him is his family bookshop, his mom who is bedridden, and his school. He would end up hatching a very surprising friendship with the biggest bully in the school, and everything that happens in their life after it. It is not an easy read. It does handle a lot of heavy topics. I would suggest go in looking the trigger warnings for it, but it was a quick read. It did give you some feel-good aspect at the end. Almond by Wong Pung Sean. My next book is another Ali Hazelwood book, but unfortunately my first DNF of 2025. I am usually very bad at DNFing books. I somehow stick to it and pull through and finish it because I've bought it with my money and I have to finish it. That was my concept. Now I'm getting better at it. I have an option to donate it to someone or share it with a friend who might actually enjoy it. So I read Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. I DNF'd it at around 40% maybe. So I might have read like 150 pages and then DNF'd it. I usually give a book at least 50 pages to, decide if it would be something that I would like or not. Turns out, not this one. So I did go in understanding this is more of an erotica than a rom-com. I did know it.
don't care. I'm not ashamed of my book. There's nothing wrong with a woman enjoying a little erotica.
I was just trying if this would be something that I'm interested in. Turns out, no. It's more like you don't care about the characters anymore if they are already together in the first page of the book. They're already together, and there are like 250 pages more of this where they go through unnecessary misunderstandings and communication gaps to finally decide that, yeah, we want to be together again. So I thought this is not something that I would enjoy, and I don't think this is a softie enough. I'm definitely not going to pick it up again. Now, I did like one thing in the book. The chapters start with a line which you actually hunt in that chapter to find used somewhere, which was nice. It's not the first book that I've seen it happen, but it was nice to see that aspect, how she split up the chapters. One thing I did not like was the characters outright would, when they just meet, they abruptly would talk about their darkest, deepest secret, and the other person would just acknowledge, and they would also share a deep secret which usually people would judge them about. So I have seen something very similar in another book which I absolutely despise. It ends with us book where they talk about naked truths. I absolutely do not enjoy that part of that book. Most of the book I don't enjoy. So I kind of felt the ick when I read the similar portrayal in this one. So that was strike 3. So Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, not for me. Next, I listened to a very anticipated read of mine, which was The Unmaking of June, Farrow. Now, this book, I had heard only good things about this one. Everybody who read it loved it. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was not meant to be enjoyed as a audiobook. The same thing happened to me with Addie LaRue, which I listened last year. Everyone loved it, but I did not enjoy it as much as they say. I found it very dragging, and it was very slow paced. Even Unmaking of June, Farrow was very slow paced. I'm still processing it. It was one of my recent finishes, and I don't love it, but it has a very interesting concept. It is talking about a woman named June, who was one of the last living women in the Farrow family, and most of them, all the women in the Farrow family are bestowed upon with a curse. At least that's what they believe. And there is time travel in the most subtle way possible described, kind of a witch folklore vibe to it, and that's pretty much all I can say about it without spoiling the concept of the book. Unmaking of June, Farrow. Let me know what you think. The last book I read in the month of Jan was On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Wong. Now, this was one of the books that I saw Andrew Garfield suggest in one of his interviews, and he was talking so much about how much he loved the author after hearing his podcast. This book is not for the faint hearts. You have to go in prepared. Please look up the trigger warnings before you start reading. It's not a book you can just sit back and relax. There are a lot of heavy topics dealt in here. The first chapter of the book was actually an essay that Ocean Wong wrote as a letter to his mother, which he later published as a book. It talks about life of a gay Vietnamese guy in his late 20s living in America, and how the Vietnam War has actually poisoned the life of people who suffered it during that time and the generations after it, and it's still haunting them. Okay. This is actually the Vietnamese version of Kite Runner. Not so much on the war side, but everything else of a traumatized childhood. If you have read Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini, you know what I'm talking about. So, go in prepared. On Earth, We Are Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Wong. So that was all the books I read in the month of January. Let me know if you have read any of them, if you have liked them, if you have a different opinion from what I had, and maybe give me some recommendations. I'm always looking out for them. Catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.